Welcome back to our deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty cool, a source text that imagines a fight.
Yeah, it's a classic what if. Pitting Bruce Lee against Igor Kurinnoy, two absolute legends from different martial arts worlds.
Bruce Lee, synonymous with Jeet Kune Do and speed, versus Kurinnoy, the Sambo master.
Exactly. And this text we looked at doesn't just set it up, it actually calls a winner. So our mission today is to break down how the source sees their strengths and weaknesses.
And unpack why it predicts the outcome it does. It's a fascinating way to look at different martial arts philosophies, right?
Totally. So let's start with Bruce Lee. The source really zooms in on his speed, explosive strikes, incredible fluidity.
Yeah, it uses the phrase unmatched understanding of fluid motion. You really get a picture of agility, precision.
And that ability to read an opponent, who's a pioneer, no doubt.
Yeah.
Really changed things.
And Jeet Kune Do itself, the source, mentions how it blended different styles.
Right. It highlights that adaptability, pulling from boxing, fencing, kung fu. It wasn't rigid. It was about what works, intercepting the opponent's attack.
So the text suggests maybe an early advantage for Lee, using that speed and, well, flair.
That seems to be the idea. His speed, his striking. Think of the one-inch punch. That kind of focused power, even up close, shows his insight into striking mechanics.
Okay, so Lee is this super fast, adaptable striker. Now, Igor Kurinnoy, how is he described?
Let's start contrast, really. The text calls him a multiple-time world Sambo champ, someone built for real combat. A tactician.
Sambo, that's the Russian grappling art, right? Lots of throws, holds.
Exactly. Devastating throws, submissions, just brutal control on the ground. Think Harai Goshi throws, drain locks, that sort of thing. He's presented as this powerhouse grappler.
Built for real combat. That definitely says something. And the source mentions his strength conditioning.
Yeah, his physical power conditioning, and crucially, his experience in full contact fights. The implication is he'd have the edge in close quarters.
Which is maybe where Lee wouldn't want to be.
Precisely. And that's the core of the source's prediction. It sets up this clash of ranges.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, according to this text, what happens when they actually clash?
Okay, brace yourself. The source predicts Igor Kurinnoy wins.
Right. But how long does it take?
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Seriously, that's incredibly fast. Why so quick? What's the logic there?
It all comes down to grappling versus striking, according to this analysis. The source argues that as soon as Kurinnoy closes that distance,
which is his whole game plan, presumably.
Right. Once he initiates a clinch or a takedown, gets it to the ground, Sambo territory, Lee would be, and this is the quote, out of his element.
Just completely overwhelmed because he didn't specifically train for that kind of high-level grappling.
That's the argument. Overwhelmed by grappling he, never truly focused on. It's about controlling the space. Lee wants distance. Kurinnoy wants to eliminate it.
And once it hits the mat,
the striking options diminish massively, and the grappling expert takes control. Positioning, submissions, that becomes the whole game. It's a great example of how controlling the where of the fight often dictates the how.
It really highlights that difference, doesn't it? Jeet Kune Do's striking focus versus Sambo's ground control. A real lesson in how different disciplines prioritize different skills.
Absolutely. For anyone listening, it's a concise, if hypothetical, illustration of why grappling can be such a game changer, even against an amazing striker.
So summing up the source's take. Bruce Lee, phenomenal striker, but the prediction is Kurinnoy's Sambo grappling skill would be the decisive factor in a very, very quick fight.
That's the gist of it, based purely on this one source's interpretation, of course.
It definitely makes you think. How often do we overlook a crucial skill set just because another one is more, flashy? What other areas, totally unrelated, might have surprising outcomes when you bring seemingly different expertise together? Something to chew on.